our 4 o'clock breakout session with podcaster Kim Sanchez. This is not the official open, by the way, but if you want to move a little closer, you're welcome to. It happens in these late afternoon events when everybody kind of gets pushed away because of other events and things that are going on. So feel free to come closer, okay? But she's also performing to those cameras back there so that everybody will be able to see these later on our YouTube channel and stuff. So you'll look real good and up close and really nice because these guys are great videographers.
Awesome.
Okay? So, but for our audience, feel free to come up. Everybody has moved and taken some of their stuff and whatever. Okay? So don't you worry about a thing. It's okay. We don't bite up here. Okay?
I do.
So Kim does. That's a good thing to know. So, all right, we'll give everybody a couple of seconds to get organized and get kind of settled in, and you're going to learn a lot of good information and great stuff. So come on up, move a little closer. It's okay. Remember, these seats cost $500 a piece at the ballpark. I'm just telling you, you want to sit in the front row? It's 5 big ones right here. Okay? Yeah, everybody says, "Oh, I don't like to sit in the cheap seats." These are the big money dollar ones. Come on up here. Get where the seating is good, right? This is what it's all about. All right, come on in. Get on down here. All right. All right, now we're going to do our official open.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kim Sanchez. She is a podcaster who has a lot of followers on Instagram. She has PLS, and she is a member of the spastic paraplegia family. And she's now going to be helping us help you tell your stories out to the internet and to the world so that you can do it on our platform, the Spastic Paraplegia website, and all those other magical places that live out there in the internet universe. Mm-hmm. And she is brilliant and excited and energized, and now it's her time to tell you all about it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good job, Kim.
All right, thanks. So, like you said, I'm Kim Sanchez. I was diagnosed with PLS about 2 years ago. Actually, end of this month will be my official 2-year diagnosis. I have a TikTok and an Instagram called My Spastic Life. And it's where I share a lot of stories about just not specifically PLS, but just disability in general, right? Because I think it's something that it's new for me. I know some people were born with certain things, but for me it's new, and learning how to navigate life with a disability is definitely a challenge, right? Would you guys all agree? This world was not made for people who, have disability. And so a common question that we get a lot here is, how can I find other people like me, right? And a lot of times, people think, well, the doctor should be introducing us and connecting us, but the Spastic Paraplegia Foundation is really a good way for us to find people who have the same illness or disease that we do, right? There's different variants, but at the end of the day, we all have a very similar experience. And so using the foundation is a great way to learn about other people who have the same issues as you, to reach out and find community. But also social media is another great place. And so I have found that myself. I know I've been out in the hall doing podcasts this, past couple days. And when I talk about social media, I kind of get that I can't do social media, right? That's not what I want to do. And I can tell you that's not something that I ever thought that I would do either, because I'm definitely a very introverted person by nature. And so I really started as a way to almost therapy, right? To kind of get my thoughts out. What's my experience? How do I feel? How can I show people the good side and the bad side of living with a disability? So I'm gonna ask you guys a question. So how many people here have met someone new who you can relate to? Everybody, right? So all of you guys have been here. You've related to somebody on some level, right? Whether it be a shared experience through disability, it could be something about, your kids. You've met people here and you've networked and you found other people, right, who are like you. How did that make you feel? Good. What else? Did it make you feel more comfortable, included? Did it make you feel, better about it? I mean, that's something that I think we all struggle with, right? Trying to find your tribe and trying to find people who are like you. And the great thing about the internet and social media is, PLS, HSP, you're not going to find very many people down the street, right, who have that same disease as you. So social media really opens it up. And I know after my diagnosis, I was Googling like crazy, trying to figure out what is this? How do I fix it, right? Because initially that's what you're thinking is how do I fix it? What medications do I take? What mobility aids should I be using? Things like that. And so it really helped me to find a community. And I found a group on Facebook, which is a PLS community. And unfortunately, the PLS community is having their meeting right now. So all my people aren't here, but they're definitely, I can tell you without a doubt that they really saved me. Because after diagnosis, I felt like I had lost my identity. And I think, a lot of you can probably relate. Because, if you've, I was very active and I had dreams for the future, and then you think about it and something happens and you're like, now what? Now what do I do? And so finding that group of people who I could relate to, it really, really saved me. And so one thing I hear a lot is there's not enough people online who really are sharing the positive sides of things. And, I know there's folks in here who I recognize from social media who show working out, who show, how can they still accomplish their dreams and their goals, even if you have something that's holding you back. And so sharing your story on social media, I think, is really important, not only for you, for your mental health, which sometimes doesn't get talked about a lot. That's one of the biggest challenges. Sure. Is it hard for me to walk from point A to point B? Absolutely. But I can tell you the mental part of it, right? The how do I get through this day is sometimes the hardest part of it. And to see how someone else can get through the day and make it positive is definitely something that needs to be shared. And so I think, disability social media can have a negative connotation, right? You think about people who are, talking about the sad part of it and the demotivating parts of it. And so being someone who shares, are there bad days? Of course, right? That's life. There's good days, there's bad days, there's okay days, but at the end of it, every day that you're here is a good day. And so I always try to find the positive part of it and share that with folks online. So what I encourage you guys to do, is definitely, even if you are not someone who feels comfortable to share or start social media account, right, and share your story, because not everybody feels comfortable to do that, go online, find your people, right? So find PLS groups or HSP groups or local groups. Use the foundation to find folks who, you can reach out to, ambassadors in your state, things like that, because you have to be a part of a community and you have to find people who are like you so that you can feel comfortable and you can, live your life to the fullest. So does anybody have questions? Oh, yes. I don't have my, go ahead.
Do you have a list of social media accounts that are active out there that you could circulate?
Yeah.
Twitter accounts and TikTok,
Yeah,
YouTube, whatever?
I could, yeah. I've got mine, and when I end up, so I can tell you there's a lot of, having rare disease, there's a smaller group of folks out there, but there are a lot of really great disability accounts that I follow, so I can share mine with you guys, or you can find it in the packet, but yeah, I would love to share that.
Sorry, we already have that list?
You have my information, and then I think you can take that and kind of look at who I follow on Instagram and TikTok if you on those. I don't have Twitter, but you can look at those and see kind of folks that I follow. But usually what you can do to find it is if you look for the hashtag, right? So hashtag disability, hashtag mobility aids, hashtag HSP and PLS. I find a lot of folks, MS is one of the bigger ones, right? And so spasticity is one of the symptoms of MS. And so, that's one that I tend to follow and find other people who that I can relate to that just talk about the general experience of being disabled, right? Not necessarily specifically PLS or HSP. But that's a great question. There's a lot out there. Some are good. Some of them I followed, and it's not the content for me or it's not relatable, but you can find people out there who have similar situations and that you enjoy their content. Yeah.
Hi, Kim. I would like to ask you to concentrate on or focus on your podcast and with SPF, and I wanted to make sure that there was like a place on the podcast where you address, certain aspects of PLS and HSP and maybe age groups, because we have a lot of younger adults. I think that the podcast is a perfect segue to reach some groups that are not part of SPF right now. So I commend you for that. But I was wanting you to focus on your podcast and tell us a little bit more about what we can do to help you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first version of the podcast is here. So I've been in the hall and I've been talking to people, and I can tell you it's been both a lot of joy, but also a lot of hard stories, right? Because people are sharing their stories and things that they might be struggling with, or things that, newly diagnosed, right? And you're lost and you're trying to figure out what to do. So it's been, for me, it's been great, but it's also been difficult, right? Kind of hearing stories, and it brings back those memories of my own journey and things like that. So this is our kind of inaugural podcast initially, but we do want to focus on specific things because HSP and PLS are similar, but there are differences between the two. PLS specifically, sometimes one of the challenges is you're kind of in that middle between HSP and ALS. And so you don't, for me specifically, I go to ALS clinic, but I don't really fit in there, in some ways. But then there's not another clinic or another place for me to go. So, you're kind of in limbo and you're not really sure where to go. So, focusing on the differences, like you said, between HSP, PLS, even some the different subtypes could be something to focus on. But I think one of the things definitely that we want to focus on with the podcast is reaching people who are, in that younger generation, right? Who are, they are online and they are trying to figure out, like I said, like I Googled the heck out of PLS because I had never heard of it. I mean, how would you know, right? So when I got the diagnosis, I Googled it and nothing came up. I mean, nothing. And so having that out there, I think is great, and getting the opinion. So what I'll do is, on the website, we'll have information to contact me, and we could do a virtual. If you wanted to participate, we could do virtual through Zoom, things like that, and record it and be able to share your story with others. So things that you've learned, if you've, have years of experience, things like that, different ways that, I know traveling, things like that, or things that people, how do I travel? If I have a wheelchair or a scooter, or, how do I, what cities are disability friendly, right? And learning from other people's experience. So we can do a variety of topics. And so that can be done through Zoom. So you can do it virtually. So we'll put it out on the website and share it out there so that we can do interviews with folks and share just different perspectives, like you said, different ages. Because I know from just kind of talking to people, my experience of becoming disabled in my 40s, and I've already got, my kids are sitting right here. I've already, I've got my kiddos. But if I was 20 and facing this, right, it's a completely different experience, right? How, what does my future look like? Or if I'm a parent or caregiver or family member of somebody, that's a completely different experience than someone who's living it. So that's a great, Tina, that's a great topic to talk about and just give all the different, because it does. I mean, as much as you don't want it to affect your family, It does. I mean, my kids would tell you that in a heartbeat, right? It changes everything, sometimes for the better. And I think about that too, sometimes where, if I could change it, would I change it? And I don't think I would, because I think it's made me focus on the things in life that matter more so than just, the day-to-day grind, right? You go to work, you come home, you have dinner, you go, sports, things like that. And now I focus on the things that matter, the purpose, right? Enjoying every day, because I don't know what tomorrow looks like. And so I think we are blessed in a way that we don't often consider, but we're blessed in a way where every day feels big, right? Where someone who, maybe isn't facing that same challenge, isn't really, you're kind of just going through life, maybe numb, right? Or maybe just not really experiencing it. What other questions or comments?
Hold on, if you got a question, I'm bringing you a microphone.
Oh, awesome, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I don't follow you yet, but I do follow a bunch of other disabled content creators, and one thing that upsets me is seeing comments from trolls, I guess, would be how do you cope with that? I don't know if you get that on your accounts, but I imagine given the way many people in the world respond to disability, you might get a few. So I'm curious how you keep going with that sort of nonsense.
That is such a great question. And so kind of the backstory about me going on TikTok initially, because I didn't have TikTok before. I did have an Instagram, I had my Facebook, mostly it was, talking about my family and life, just like everyone else, right? Like the highlight reel of life. And I switched to Instagram. I created a separate one, and it was really, like I said, kind of more therapy, right? Like me putting thoughts. I was going through a lot of changes in life. It wasn't just the disability. I was changing jobs, and I was going through a divorce, and my kids were getting older. So I had a bunch of things happening at the same time, and it was during COVID too. And so I thought, let me kind of create this anonymous Instagram where I shared my thoughts about things. And then when this happened, I switched gears to it, to be disability content. And it was actually my brother who encouraged me to start making videos, because he said, you're good at speaking, you're good at talking to people. And I was like, no, I don't want to put myself out there, right? I don't want my face, I want it to be anonymous. And so he had encouraged me to do it, and I was scared to death. And the reason why is because I thought, well, how am I? I'm already, struggling with so much, and I'm already feeling very vulnerable. What if somebody says something? And I'll be honest, for me, I am surprised. I've only had probably 2 bad experiences, which there's other content creators that I've talked to who I think the key is, if you are real and you are vulnerable, people do tend to not come after you as much. I think it's the people who maybe aren't authentic or, braggy, kind of, you know what I mean? Those are the people who get it. But I'll tell you, so one story, there's one person who has PLS, and she had gone through all of my videos, which I've, at this point, since I've been doing it a year, I don't know how many I have, probably hundreds. She had gone through video after video and kept making negative comments, like, you seem so happy you have this disease. Like, why are you so happy? Your life is over. You shouldn't be happy. And at first I thought, well, this is an opportunity. It's clearly she's hurting, right? Because she's saying this to me, so she's obviously feeling something. And I believe that, how people treat you is a reflection of how they feel about themselves more than you. And so I thought, well, maybe this is my opportunity to reach out to her, right? And help her feel better. So she would post negative comments, and I would respond, well, my life's not over. I have a lot of good things in my life, but it just kept escalating. So at one point I did block her, because I was having a bad day anyway, and she commented something. I thought, oh my gosh, I can't take this. So I blocked her for a little while. And then what I ended up doing, and this is kind of funny, is, and it's kind of happened recently, I was having a bad day and I was posting a frustrated video about something. I can't remember what happened, but I was frustrated about something, or it could be, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I posted something and I actually unblocked her and I tagged her in it. And I said, this video is for you. And it was me sad. And ever since then, she hasn't said anything to me. She didn't even respond to that video. But that's the one thing that I could think about. But I do feel like, there are some people who are trolls, right? And are just mean. But I also feel like there are people who are going through the grieving process, and maybe the way that they're manifesting that is to, say things. And so what I try to do is use it as a tool to try to help that person. Does it work always? No. But in this case, I thought, let me show the good and the bad, right? So I show the days when I'm happy and I show the days when I'm sad, because I'm real and I don't want to just show the good things. I want to show the parts where it's hard. So that's how I deal with it. But I have been blessed. I thought for sure I was going to get a lot of hate and a lot of, some people get things like you're faking it, right? And things like that, or you're doing it for attention. I haven't experienced that, and I don't know if it's luck or just how I approach things, but I haven't. I've had a few, but I try to give them grace. I think there was another one. Oh, in the back.
Hi. Hi. I don't have any social media. I'm not on any social media. How do you get started? My neuroemotional specialist, he knows about some of the things I'm doing. They're kind of off the wall. I really take a lot of adaptive things to try and stay active. And he thinks that a lot of things that I'm doing that other people should be aware of, that your life doesn't have to stop. And for your podcast, like, how did you know you had enough content to go ahead and start doing podcasts? Like, because I know you started, like, I guess on social media first. So
Yep.
when did you decide to start doing podcasts?
Yeah, so it's a gradual process. Like I said, I started with photos and written content. Then I went to short videos. At the time when I started about a year ago, TikTok had a 3-minute limit. And so that was, I'd have to speed talk through those. But I also knew that I could keep it very concise, right? So I had to think about what's my message, and I had to be very concise. Now TikTok has a 10-minute limit, and I think they just increased it to 60 minutes. So you can upload longer content. The podcast, so actually my daughter did one of the podcasts with me. The first 2 I did, I've only published 3 right now, and I want to do more, but it is a bit time consuming, and I still work full time, and I've got a lot of things. But what I ended up, the reason why I went to the podcast was time, right? Because some things you want to go deeper, and also I wanted to have the ability to it not just be my experience, but to share the experience with others. So what I love, here I've been able to talk to so many people and what I've realized through that, because that is the first time that I've interviewed other people. I have a lot of friends, like my best friends now are in the disability community, which, if you'd asked me 10 years ago if that was going to be the case, absolutely not. I would have never considered that, but they are some of the best people, my best friends. So we talk about things, and so what I've learned through interviewing people here is that no matter where you are in your process, no matter what age you are, no matter what your circumstances are, we all go through that same human experience, right? So it's grief, it's overcome, adapt, right? All those things that you have to learn how to do. And so to be able to, so the podcast part of it really has become, how can I not only give my perspective, because there's only so many things I can talk about, right, where it becomes redundant, but also how can I bring that, share people's stories. And when I say share your story, it's not just about telling people what happened to you, but it's about sharing how do you feel about it. Because I think people, common thing I hear is, I don't like asking for help, which I'm sure a lot of us in this room think about, gosh, that's the hardest thing, right? To ask for help when people mean well. They just want to be there for you, and you want to be independent and you want to do it yourself. And so things like that shared experience and being able to hear it from different people, I think is really important, because we are, all the same. And, if you can share your experience with someone, hopefully get them through that process faster, and give them the wisdom, or, if you have different things that you're trying, as far as, some people go holistic, some people go, different exercises, sharing those things. Because with a rare disease, one thing that we've all kind of figured out is that the doctors don't always know, right, the things that are going to help us. We have tried the different things and we share with each other. And I have learned more about how to manage my disease from my peers who have it than a doctor has ever shared with me. Because typically, I could tell you my diagnosis experience was kind of, this is what you have, there's no cure, there's no treatment, see you in 6 months. And you go home going, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And so learning from each other, I think, is really what's important. And so if you do a podcast, you can share other people's experience, and also you get a lot more time. So, and trying to find people who, they just find you. I can't explain it. There's been no, I don't have a secret. I'm definitely not, I don't have 1 million followers or anything. I have a few thousand. But, people will find you. And probably twice a week, I will get a direct message from somebody who either is trying to get a diagnosis, just got diagnosed, or a family member who doesn't know how to support someone through the process. And so we'll talk, or they'll text me, or we'll have a conversation about it. But if you put it out there, people will find you. And it's, to me, it gives purpose to what's happening, right? Because you can't explain it, because you think, why me, right? Why am I the one? But when you have purpose behind it, it really helps to accept it and to, make it a lot easier, is what I find.
Is it possible to collaborate, especially for beginning? Say she wants to share, could she maybe hook up with you and you guys
Yeah.
could do a joint podcast to start?
Yeah, and definitely. And so we'll have my information on the SPF website. And then what we can do is just schedule some time to do a Zoom and just record it and put it out there. You can do voice podcasts. I think sometimes people like to see, faces along with it. So I prefer to do the video. It's been really, really good. But yeah, my information will be out there. So if anybody wants to share, they can just go on there and reach out, and then we can schedule some time.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the SPF podcast is going to be on Spotify. There's a link. There's nothing posted yet, so the link is not going to take you there. Mine is also on Spotify. So the question was, where does it live? Yeah.
I just asked the question where the podcast was.
Yeah. So it's going to be on Spotify, but the link to it for the foundation will be on the foundation website. So where you found the agenda, you'll see a link to the podcast there. And then my personal social media is My Spastic Life everywhere. So it's TikTok, Instagram, and also Spotify. And if you do have a chance, my daughter, she's great. She volunteered to do a session with me where she talks about what it's like to have a parent with a disability. And I learned so much from her. And I think as a parent, that's a common worry, right? How is this going to affect my kids? And what I've seen is that there's so much more compassion that they have for other people. This is where I'm going to start crying. But they're so compassionate towards others. And I think without this experience, it's changed them. And I'll tell you a quick story, because I remember in the beginning, we were at a water park. Y'all probably remember this. We were at the Gaylord. And I was trying to get on and off the bus to go to the water park. And my son was, 15 maybe at the time. And he was helping me. And there was a woman, and she said, you know, when I was growing up, my dad had a disability, and I completely, like, I'm watching you guys, and, you know, I can really, you know, I can see the frustration that you have, right? Because I want to do it myself. And he was helping me, and I felt kind of, you know, it felt awkward because it was so new to me. And she said, you know, what's going to happen is someday you're going to realize it's going to be so good for their hearts, right? And they're going to be the most compassionate people. And at the time, I was like, no way, no. I was like, this is, you know, no. But, you know, I can sit here probably 4 years later from that point and know that their hearts are changed forever. And it's made them so much more compassionate. So he gave me a thumbs up, so it's true. Love you guys.
Kim, so I'm curious. Now, admittedly, I'm not huge on social media, but so you have a better perspective than I do, I'm sure. But you know, obviously, for spreading awareness, social media is an extremely powerful tool. And sorry if any of this has already been chatted about. I was a little bit late, but my question for you is, and this doesn't seem like something we can force, right? We can't just all say, hey, like, we need to do more of this, so let's all get out there and start posting. So my question for you is, what would you say the current state of, like, HSP and PLS social media looks like, and what could be done to help promote more of that? And I'm sure, you know, this session would be something, you know, along those lines, but I don't know, anything else we could do to help spread the word and help get more people motivated to be, you know, more active on social media and sharing more of their stories?
I think that's a great point. One thing, I mean, it doesn't have to be on a big stage, right? And so even if, and I know sometimes this is hard because one of the struggles I think a lot of people can, you know, relate to is, how do you come out and tell people, right? Especially if it's something that's new. How do you tell people about your diagnosis? Or, you know, I was just talking to someone right before this and saying, you know, at work, a lot of people see me virtually. So I'm on a meeting, and so they don't know that I, you know, can't walk. And so what I usually do is I tell them ahead of time if we're going to meet in person, or I'm going to a dinner or an event, or I'm, you know, for work sometimes I speak at conferences. And so I tell them, you know, hey, I have a disability, I use a scooter, so that they're not surprised, right, when I go out there. But even if you don't go out on a big platform, I think sharing it yourself, I think, brings awareness that, you know, I'm just like you. I just have, you know, this aspect of my life is different. And normalizing it is really, I think, what I want to do, right? And so PLS, HSP probably isn't going to touch, you know, many people, right? Other things touch more people. But the disability part of it, and what do you do, right? Do you offer to help somebody? Do you make comments about it? Do you not talk about it? Do you say, I mean, people don't know what to do. And so I think sharing that, educating people is one thing, right? Even if you're out in the world, you know, people ask me all the time, do you want help? And I'll usually say, you know, if I do, yes, because I think that's, you know, if someone wants to help me, I need help, it's a win-win, right? I need you to open the door. You want to open the door, that's great. That doesn't make me unable. I could figure it out, but hey, why not just take advantage of it? But, you know, if somebody does something like, for example, when I was using a cane, if I were to lean on the door, you know, and I'm trying to open the door, I have all my weight on the door. And if someone comes from the other side and pulls it open, well, hello, I'm going with it, right? And so what I'll do is I would take the time and say, hey, if somebody's opening the door, they have their weight on it, like, you need to be careful and not, you know, don't do that. Or if somebody makes a comment, you know, sometimes people do make comments that they mean well, but if you see that person often, you know, sometimes I would say to them, you know, that type of comment, like an example I gave to somebody was I was walking into church and I was using my rollator, and it took me a long time. And when I got to the door, the greeter goes, "Yay, you did it," you know? And I thought, oh my gosh, like, and I know that she meant well, right? I think she was trying to be supportive and encouraging, but you think about that and it makes you feel, right, like a child, you know, or something like that. And so, you know, things like that, educating people on what's the right etiquette. It's okay to ask people if they need help. It's not a bad thing. And the worst that they can do is say no. You know, but you know, things like if you're out in public and someone's talking to the person with you and not directly to you, right? I'm sure you've all experienced that. I experience it. I do a lot of work travel, and I'll be with coworkers, and I'm trying to, you know, gate check this, and they're talking to the coworker, and I'm like, "Hello, I'm right here." Like I can talk. But you know, things like that, people don't know, and so educating people on it, I think. Even if it's a small circle, right? Even if you only affect or touch 5, 10 people, not 2,000 people, it does make a difference. And, you know, I talk about the podcast with my daughter and stuff, and there's some things that she says in there that friends of mine and people who have listened to it, it was very eye-opening to them about, you know, things that she's seen happen to me that she's like, that wasn't okay, or that wasn't right. And they're like, I never thought about that, you know? So I think sharing it with people, coworkers, you know, and just being present and being out in the world is even, you know, not necessarily having a social media account, but being out in the world and showing people, I can do all these things, right? I'm not gonna hide in the house. I'm gonna go out and do things, right? It may be different, you know, but I mean, I go to my kids' sports events, you know, it's not easy. There's challenges, right? There's things that I have to do to accommodate, but I think it really shows people a day in the life, right? And that's powerful.
Anybody have any other questions? Come on, hands, come on, you know you want to be secret podcasters. Come on, because I know I want to do.
It's a lot of work, I'm telling
Yes.
you. But also I think kind of to piggyback off of that question is, you know, even if you don't, support those who do, right? So encourage them. I get, back to the question about the trolls and things like that, you know, I am blessed that I don't get a lot of negative commentary. But even if somebody just writes, you know, I post a lot of videos of me doing modified workouts. You know, my balance isn't good. So, but I still want to work out because use it or lose it, right? So I do a lot of workouts like on my knees, or I modify different things. I can't go as hard as I used to. And, you know, I've learned to accept that. But if somebody just, even if they just post like a muscle or, you know, something like that, it makes my day, right? Because I'm like, okay, you saw me. You know, it's making a difference. So even if you're not the one who's out there putting yourself out there, encourage those who do, because it does make a difference. I know there are some folks out there that put out disability content, and they've made some big changes with like airlines and how they, you know, with wheelchairs and mobility aids and things like that. It does make a difference, and bringing awareness, right? Like, so encourage people who are out there if you can, and support them, because, you know, if I were to post content out there and nobody liked it or nobody said anything, I probably would stop, you know, because it's kind of like just talking to the wind. But, you know, the encouragement, even if it's just a like, even if it's just a emoji, right? Like, hey, good job, or, you know, keep going. That means the world to those people. And so those people can reach more people, and that's what that ripple effect of change.
Question. Hey, what? No.
Oh, hold on. He's going to come to you.
You got to raise the hand, then you got to wait.
And I want to share. So she has one called Falling for Fitness. So you should also follow her. She's amazing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And she has really great content also, by the way. And it is, she's very transparent, which I find very valuable. And you've shared so many great tools and things that you've learned. And I've definitely liked the Cadence shoes. I hadn't heard of that until your Instagram post. So then, of course, I went and investigated and all that good stuff. And she's posted some really great supplements and some different things that I've looked into just because she posted. So, yeah, there's definitely benefit there. But my question was, I know a lot of us are interested. Well, I have an Instagram page, but for anybody that's getting started too, are there any tools that you use on social media that help you, like with your posting or like managing those posts, anything to that effect?
That's a good question. Well, I have found, for me, TikTok is very easy to use. I know not everybody loves TikTok, right? It's very easy to use and edit videos there. There's also CapCut, which you can use, so you can use your video and you can add music or effects or things like that to it. So one thing I really encourage people, a lot of people don't want to speak or put their face out there. They want to kind of just have pictures. I think it's so much more meaningful when there's an actual person behind it that's relatable. So I know it's hard. I just honestly, like 90% of my videos is just me sitting in my office, or I have in my backyard, I have a hammock, which I always post myself in the hammock and, stuff like that. But it's just me and my phone, and I'm videoing myself and just kind of winging it. I usually think about, kind of the night before, sometimes if it's going to be content that's like I do Motivation Monday stuff, and I'll think about it Sunday night, what do I want to talk about that day? And so there's not specific tools. I think if I was, there are tools out there. I just kind of wing it. And I find personally, those are the more endearing videos, right? The ones that are overproduced sometimes, it doesn't feel as authentic. But just somebody talking into a camera about, here's what happened, or here's how I feel about things, or today was a rough day. I mean, there's been times I've gone on and cried, and it's just like, well, should I post that? I'm like, might as well. And, people will, support. And it was a bad day. We all have bad days, right? And so, and I don't go on there with the intention of going, okay, today I'm going to post something about me crying. It's, this is how I feel, and it's raw and it's real. But yeah, there's a lot of editing things that you can use. I find TikTok is easier. You can do Reels. You can do, CapCut's a good one. But sometimes, just adding music is good. Sometimes, talking is good. It just depends. And I'll tell you one thing that is something that I had to learn the hard way is if you do start doing it and you don't feel like posting, just don't post. You don't have to. And I used to feel like if I don't, like I'm letting myself down, or the people. And I thought, nobody cares, right? If I'm having a bad day and I'm tired, or I don't want to add more stress to my life, right? This is something that's supposed to be fun and relieve stress for me. And so if you're not feeling it, don't put pressure on yourself to do it. Just do it when it feels right, because that's where that transparent authenticity comes from. Is when I do it, it's because I have something to say, and because I feel, good about it, and I feel like it's important to say it. And when I don't, I just don't, and I move on.
Any other questions from anybody? I've got one for you. Oh, sorry, but I'm going to do mine first. You talk about music and when you do your videos and stuff like that. What's the copyright issues with those? Any copyright issues with using music, on your podcasts or whatever you need to do behind it for licensing, or any issues like that?
So if you use TikTok, it depends. So if you use TikTok, usually it's already, it's kind of a free-for-all. It depends. It can be banned in some countries. So I've had messages where it's like, in Russia, your video can't be seen, or something like that. But then there are times, like I know Taylor Swift had one where recently any video that had her music in it, it took the audio out, which means that all the audio, including what I might have said, let's say I use it as background music, everything is muted. So there is a risk sometimes with using that. So what I try to do, it depends on the video, but if I'm actually making content that I want to last, I will do generic music, right? Like happy music, or, things that aren't artists creating. So that way it doesn't get blocked. Because if you do use like Taylor Swift or something like that, it can get blocked and your whole video does get muted.
Sure.
So,
good.
yeah.
Good answer. Thank you very much. Here's a question right over here in the front.
Thank you. So this isn't really a question, but something that I noticed. I feel like a lot of this stuff is like not just for people with disabilities because, you know, everyone has a bad day, everyone has struggles. But I also think that it can help people without a disability because it can put it in perspective that, you know, what you're dealing with probably isn't that huge of a deal whenever you step back and look at it. And like normalizing it is like helpful, and like the compassion thing, like seeing the hard days will make you understand more, and, you know, just make it not so huge of a deal whatever you're dealing with at the time. So
You're so right.
I think it could be helpful for everyone.
You're right. So that's my son. And yeah, and you know, we talk about that all the time, is that everybody's going through something, right? Everybody. And it's all relative. I was talking to someone earlier about this. I said, maybe your hard day is you have a bad hair day, right? And that's based on what's going on in your life, right? So maybe your biggest struggle today is my hair didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. And maybe my biggest struggle was I face planted this morning getting ready for work, right? So, you know, everybody's experience is different, but we all share that, and to put it in perspective. And that's one of the blessings of this is, you know, we get to have those conversations of when something bad happens, we do talk through it and go, okay, in the grand scheme of things, where does this fall, right? Is it the end of the world, or is it just a little speed bump, right, that you have to get over? And I would say for me, you know, probably 80% of people who do follow me are not part of the disability community. They are just people who have found me through motivational things and things like that. Because I try to mix it up, because I would try to do funny stuff and, you know, different things just to kind of get a wider audience. But it's relatable because we're all going through something. And so, and that to me, I love, because if 80% of those people, you know, if 20% of the people have a disability, I can help them to deal with it, right? And then 80% of those people, I can teach them what it's like to walk in our shoes, and how can maybe they treat people differently, or what should they do, what should they not do. So I love the fact that I'm probably more heavily followed by people who don't have a disability, because then they learn something, and then they share, and then they share, and then they share, right? And hopefully, and that's always the thing that, you know, if I could change the world, you know, I would love for the world to be more accessible, and I would love for people to learn how to treat people who are different, right, in general. And so I feel like for me, you know, like Evan said, it's relatable to everyone, because we're all going through something, and it's all relative to your life circumstance. So your story, even if it's, you know, whatever it is, it impacts people far more than you know, or that you can even imagine.
Great. Any other questions? Because I'm going to ask a 10-part question.
10-part?
10-part with subsets.
He
in there.
will too.
No, it's okay. Hey, here's one for you. We talked about your ability to help the members of the Spastic Paraplegia Foundation, right? All of our members, to help them tell their stories. We'd obviously want to have hundreds of Kim Sanchez's out in the world talking about HSP and PLS and reaching a broad audience and stuff. How do you help them reach an audience? Obviously, you were talking about an 80-20 percentage breakdown over an audience. How do you generate that audience? Where do you find that audience? And how does the podcasts generate to people? How do they come and find you so that you can tell your story, or our members can tell their stories to get the word out to a larger group?
So the strategy that I followed initially was I mixed it up because I wanted to get different types of people. I think, you know, if you post it, right, the people who are looking for it will find it. The people who aren't looking for it may find it by accident. But I think having a foundation like SPF to be behind you is huge, right? Because then that can help to, you know, even, you know, on social media, on our Facebook page, right? I was seeing people going, oh, I didn't know there was even a conference, right? Which is so sad, because I thought, wow, we did such a good job marketing it, you know, but still people didn't know about it. And so I think having a big organization like that, or partnering with like Cadence and things like that, right? That having those folks is going to give us a bigger reach. You know, I think from a personal perspective, right, it's mixing up your content so that the people find you that aren't necessarily looking for you. But then you also include things like the hashtags and the keywords for people who are looking for it. So I would put, you know, spastic paraplegia, or I'd put primary lateral sclerosis, or, you know, whatever the keywords are. So if they're looking for it, they're going to find you. But I think having the foundation is really, really helpful. And then, you know, I think if you're new to it, I think, you know, someone like me who can ask you questions, it's a lot easier, right? Sometimes it's hard to just think about, what am I going to talk about? But, you know, asking some of those hard questions and kind of being interviewed sometimes, if you're new to it, is easier. And it gives you that confidence to think, oh, I can tell my story. Where if you think you can't, you know, someone asks you some questions, like, you know, my first question to everybody was, what's your favorite part of the conference? And that would open up, you know, the next thing that we talk about, right? And, you know, so you kind of go through that and you realize, oh, I can do this. I can share my story. So I think that's a key is, you know, interviewing is a lot easier than just creating content.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I think we have a question right here in the center.
Just a comment, Kim, I'm not on social media, don't do near as much of that as Norma does every
Yeah.
day, but you mentioned hashtags, and I know she's been using for the past couple of years, hashtag HSP and PLS. That's simple and easy for us to remember, so if you want to get started on social media, that's a good hashtag to throw into the mix.
Yeah, it is.
Any other questions? Well, wait, no, nope. You gotta wait. You can't raise your hand and then disappear. Here you go.
Thank you. This isn't a question, it's more of a comment. For people that are my age that aren't really savvy about social media, please explain to us what a hashtag is and what it does.
So I'm older too, in a way, but basically what a hashtag does is it will, I don't know, my kids could probably explain it better, but it's a way of organizing things. So if I put hashtag disability, if you were to look up, let's say in the search, you know, on TikTok or Instagram, if you put in disability, it would find anything that has that hashtag. Number sign, yeah, the pound sign, right? If you've ever used a phone that wasn't a cell phone, it's the pound sign. But yeah, so it's a way to kind of organize things, and then you can also follow a hashtag or a pound sign, and you can follow it, and then anything that comes up with that. So if, let's just say I follow hashtag disability, anyone who posts content with that, it will come up in your feed. So in Instagram and TikTok, it will automatically come up. So that's great because, you know, that, and you have to find the right ones. And honestly, one of the easier ways to do it is you can Google, you know, top hashtags for disability or top hashtags for mobility aids or whatever, and it will give you a list of things that you can put in there, and then you just copy paste them and you see what sticks. And I've kind of gotten to a point where I know which ones are going to attract, you know, the people that I want to attract to my page, without attracting the people I don't want. And so, yeah, you can look that up and it'll give you ideas. If you don't know what hashtag or pound sign or tic-tac-toe to use, you can just Google it and it'll give you ideas and you can start there.
Great question, Tina. Any other questions? I'm scanning the room. All right. Hey, I've got another one for you, though. When you develop your audiences, I mean, you obviously create content for a specific, not only for your benefit, but to benefit other people.
Yeah.
And so we talk about using hashtags and keywords that can find that, which is, you know, basically how the internet works and how it has its logarithms or whatever to make things come together. How does your audience expand just naturally with people that follow you, that because of the keywords and also the content and do they stay with you for a long period of time? And then here's the seventh part of the question is, can you guide and direct them to do things for you, such as fundraising events and things like that. Being, and also to inform them and information and to send them information. Is there an upscale of information that comes up to, do people reach out to you and say, man, I need a neurologist, what do I do? Does that come up in those kind of conversations?
Yeah, it does. That's a good question. Gosh, that was a long question, Tim, so now I'm forgetting all that you said. But yeah, so organically you can grow your audience through the keywords, right? And so that's part of it. You can partner. So I've partnered with some people. Gary's in the back. He and I have done duet videos together. And so his audience and my audience will both see it. And then you can get followers that way. I can tag like at Spastic Paraplegia Foundation. And so then people will see that and they can click that and find the webpage. I mean, you can spend money to promote your website or your social media if you want to. I haven't done a lot of that, but you can spend money to promote it. You could partner with companies. I haven't done that either, but you can have, sponsored content. You can have ads that run. So there's a lot of ways you can boost it. Mine, for the most part, I've just kind of organically grown it, and people will, especially on TikTok, things come up on your For You page based on algorithms, so things that you look at, right? So you guys know, as soon as you talk about something, your phone is like sending you ads for it, right? So if I'm thinking about, I need a new scooter, right? My videos may show up in your feed because you're thinking about buying a scooter. So that's how I've done it. But you can definitely partner with other people, other content creators, companies. You can tag them, which is just that at symbol, and then you put the name. Things like that. That helps to get more visibility. If you have other people, they can share it on their story, which then will kind of link back to you. And that's where I have found a lot of my folks that I follow for disability content is through stories, where they share the story, you click on the story, and then you get to their page. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. You can pay money, or you can just kind of organically grow. My goal is not to get numbers. I'm not doing it to make money. I think people who do it to make money obviously are going to spend money to do it. Mine is just kind of a hobby for awareness. So I let it just kind of grow just by people finding me. And some people do. I mean, it'll give you insights if you want to. You can see how many new followers you have, how long they watched your video, where they found your video, do they stay? For me, I mean, at times I'll lose a follower here and there, it just happens, right? But my numbers have been pretty consistent, and so.
Great. We got one more question for you, right back here.
Well, actually, it wasn't a question. It just another comment about that is, because all these things a lot of them have algorithms. So when you first start, get your friends on board, get your friends online when you are posting, so it raises the number so that the machines, whatever, can recognize and promote it more. It's just my suggestion, reach out to all your friends and your Facebooks and so forth, whatever organizations you're in, to help you get the numbers up, even just so that it gets out there. Not necessary for money, even though that can be there too, but just to get it out there, that can help.
Good, yeah. I think that's one thing is if you, follow someone, follow them back, right? If someone who is in the same, disability community, right? They follow you, you follow them back, and it does help raise numbers. Yeah.
Wonderful. You've done really, really well, and we're glad that we are partnering with you to help us in this social media way. Everybody be on the lookout for her stuff. You should all be there clicking right now. I saw the phones. Look, Tina was a teacher for a million years, and whenever the lights are out during the movie time, everybody had their phones on under the desk. So we know what you're doing here. So make sure that you guys connect with Kim. Okay, you should all be doing it right now. You all have social media. You know you do. You all have that good stuff. Find her out there. Click on her page. Join with her. And then she's done a lot of work the last day or so, grabbing some stories here at our conference. And so we're really happy about that. We can't wait to see those when she produces those and put those all together, and will continue to help us spread our message around the world and into the universe, wherever the internet shall go. And so we're really excited to have you and to help teach us and teach our members that they can do the same thing, and we can grow awareness exponentially to many, many more people. We all meet hundreds of people every day, but through social media and the internet, we can meet thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions and billions. Maybe that's a little too much, but we're going to try. That's our goal. And it's all because of you, and we're going to thank you for that, and thank you for being with us. Guys, we're at that time of the day that we are finishing up all of our programs for today, and we're getting ready to move on to our evening here. So you're going to get a little break time and everything. Everybody give a big round of applause to Kim Sanchez.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, you're all done. Go ahead. You can take off. We're going to have a little dinner in a little while. We've got auctions and other kind of fun stuff to do tonight. Hang on to it. Yes, ma'am. With Jim, wherever he goes, follow Jim. Anybody want a picture with Jim? Follow Jim. I'm not. Where do you want to take your picture? Be up by the glass doors. Okay, so just go out with him and you can take a picture with him for the walk, roll, and run and stuff. Take a little time. No hurry, no rush. Okay, we'll get out there. We'll get that done. Thanks for being with us for the last day and a half. We still got a big evening planned. We'll see you soon.